Hey, I'm Adam Thompson. I'm a consultant in strategy and organisational design, and today I want to talk to you about a disease that's afflicting everyone in organisational life, which is overload. Let's get right into it. Where did this overload start? Let me prove it. As you can see from my carefully researched diagram, since the mid-90s, the amount of email has just continually and exponentially gone up, and along with that has been the amount of stress. The ability to assign or create work has never been higher.
You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
In the same way that now it's the responsibility of the person who's receiving the text message to have their phone on no notifications during the night, it's now the responsibility of the person receiving work to put the limits on how much is possible. And yes, this sucks because it puts you into a situation where you're going to have to go and talk to someone who's a bit scary, who has authority regarding you about what is and isn't possible.
Good morning.
We can either wear the anxiousness of having this conversation up front, or we wear the more fundamental anxiety of getting overloaded as things go along. This is how the world of work now works. Execs and boards are now setting strategy for the whole organisation, and they're trying to handle an environment that gets increasingly and increasingly complex. And meanwhile, you've got the actual activities of the organisation and the people primarily involved in doing those, doing the best they can to get those done. And often the gap between these two things is big, and that's where management sits. And of course, if the people here aren't saying that's not possible, and the people here are saying, well, it has to be possible, otherwise the whole show is buggered, we are going to progressively shake until we get more overloaded because of this diagram that I'll put together here. So anyway, that's what we're currently dealing with. So we're going to have to do something about it. First thing we're going to have to do is make sure we visualize our work. We need to be able to make it obvious for all in terms of what we're currently dealing with. Now, work simply breaks down into these two areas here, initiatives and operational. Here's my very fancy definition of initiatives. Will end, and the definition of operational stuff is, you guessed it, won't end. In other words, you'll still be doing it tomorrow. We need to be clear on what we're dealing with here. So what we do is we get out a piece of paper, A3 sheet, get out a whiteboard, do this with your manager, or managers do this with your people. And for the operational areas, write out areas of demand. What are the areas where operational things come across, and how much time do those things take up? We want to clarify how much operational time is taken per job, per week, just to keep the balls rolling, answering customer requests, handling emails, handling phone calls, and that sort of thing. Then for initiatives, we want to get a clear idea on all the things that are on someone's plate that will end. So for each one of these, write yourself out a little card, make sure they're all covered here in terms of all the various things that are going on, because we need to get the full picture in terms of the operational work, how much time that's getting taken, and the time available to do initiatives. Various techniques you can use to improve your operational and improve your initiative work, which we look at another time. But until we can visualize all of this together, we're going to be in strife. Once you have this work visualized, that's when we discuss reality. We're going to have to get together, and this is the part where we take a deep breath and say out loud what we think is and isn't possible. Each person sharing, I don't think I can get all that done. I do think you can get that done. Here's what your reasons are. And when we're having these awkward conversations, the key thing underneath the surface is assumptions. If you think someone can get a whole bunch of work, then what assumptions are you making that say that's possible? If you think that there's no way you can get all that done, what assumptions are you making that make you think it's not possible? By comparing what the assumptions are, that's how two people can start working on a problem together, rather than two people sitting across from each other, basically having a face-to-face battle. Once we've had this discussion, then what we need to do is decide the work. Actually make an agreement about what will be worked on over the next month. What are our operational standards? What sort of thing are we going to be doing? And which are the projects that we're going to focus on moving? Because if there are things that aren't due a fair bit down the track, let's get them away from us and get them off our agenda so we can actually work on the ones that do need to be done now. Then the fourth thing we need to do is set up the coordination, a very unfancy word, but things need to be coordinated.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
It doesn't matter how. Either way, there needs to be a process in place, because everyone in the organisation is busy running their operational stuff and they're busy doing their projects. They're all going to be shouting for the same resources or wanting their thing to go first. So what's required is coordination. This is often the biggest thing that can help an organisation. Very unfancy, nowhere near as cool as strategy or intent and values and all that sort of stuff, but the act of coordinating can actually allow people to get stuff done. You might ask, when do I have the time to do this?
Reversing the flow of time.
You might have to carve out a couple of hours, a couple of nights in a row to work on this stuff. You might have to force a meeting into a calendar to be able to get someone's time. But remember the trade-off. The trade-off you might be making could be with your own sanity. So this is crucially important that you at least do the initial step of visualizing what the work is, getting clear on what your operational stuff is and your initiatives are, so that you can now sit down and have a genuine discussion about what's reasonable, just like a builder speaking to a homeowner in terms of what's actually possible. Do this and you've got half a chance of sanity coming back towards you. If you've got any questions about this, feel free to email me. Otherwise, if you want to read the article that goes along with this, just sign up to my blog and I'll see you next time.